Hey guys, before we get started with the episode, I just have two announcements to make. One, I have the Jibs Journal is out now. I send a weekly journal through email every single week that covers episode highlights, tips and tricks that the entrepreneurs in the show have gone over, and just other cool things that are happening. If you're interested in being subscribed to that journal, the link is in the description. The second announcement is I've released a course. So the course is how to crowdfund for your passion project or side hustle. I crowdfunded over $65,000 in less than 90 days through my organization called Research Detroit. And the class is going to cover, the nitty-gritty details on how I did that, how I delegated the tasks with my team, the templates, the samples. It goes into full detail on how to run an effective crowdfunding campaign. So if you're interested in taking that course, the link is in the description as well.
It's just about getting up and doing it and finding the time, finding the people and making it happen.
You take control and you say, okay, this needs to be done, and you do it.
And you're never ready to start a business. You either do it or you don't.
Welcome to the Jibs Podcast, showcasing Detroit's movers and shakers, bringing you stories that reveal the gusto and grit that's long defined the city and its people. Together, we'll uncover the history and direction of the Motor City, one voice at a time. This is the Jibs Podcast with Jibran Ahmed.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the next episode of the Jibs Podcast. I'm here with Kevin Peterson, the co-founder of Sfumato. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, all is well. It's a beautiful day. We're here in your space. It's really beautiful. You were showing me that it converts from a shop to a cocktail area, which is really cool. We're sitting here at the bar. Let's get right into it. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and about the business?
Sure. So my life started out in the culinary world. So I cooked for about 5 years and went to culinary school. Eventually wound up leaving that world, but at that time I started picking up fragrances as a hobby, and I found a lot of analogies between flavor and fragrance. So say coriander, cardamom, nutmeg might go together in chai tea or in a curry. I would take that combination and build a scent around it. Mm-hmm. And so it was a way for me to keep my knowledge of flavors alive and actually expand it in a way where perfumery has other ingredients that aren't in, sort of the culinary canon. So I could start mixing, say, herbs and spices with different woods, different flowers, different things that don't show up on a plate, but can show up in the world of scent. So I found that to be really engaging. Never really intended it to be a business. Did it as a hobby for several years, probably 7-8 years. People kept asking to buy the scents. My wife, Jane Larson, has a background in art and design, so she started doing the package design, the web design, and just little by little the company started to take off.
What year did you guys start?
We founded the company in 2013.
Yeah. And you guys just opened up a shop.
Yep.
So can you talk about that process from starting there and getting to the shop?
Sure. So we started doing holiday pop-ups and, really just to gauge interest and see, what we're doing is a little bit outside the norm in the fragrance realm. So we stick to all natural ingredients. Most things that you would find at the mall are highly synthetic. We weren't sure, naturals, they wear differently. They've got a subtlety and complexity that the synthetics don't. Some of them tend to be more expensive, so we just weren't sure if there was a market there. But we started doing some holiday pop-ups around the city and found that people really enjoyed the scents. Mm-hmm. Even a lot of people that say, I don't wear fragrances, I get a headache if I go to the fragrance counter at Macy's. They liked our scents and they bought our scents, and that was kind of the first indication, hey, we're onto something, this is interesting, people like it. And we just started scaling up. So we built a website, we started selling online, we started getting into other people's stores, first in the Detroit area, then the metro area, then across the country. And really just little by little, each year the company grew a bit, and eventually got to the point where justified opening a store.
We had a brief conversation beforehand about people who feel who are used to like the synthetic scents and flavors and all of that, and when they come and try out your fragrances or your cocktails, they feel they either love it or it's so foreign that they don't know what to think about it. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. In some ways, it'd be nice if there was actually just like a different word for it. Like, like these are scents, but it'd be nice to just have two categories. Yeah, we talked a little bit about like the difference between a McDonald's burger and say a grass-fed, whatever, hand-cooked hamburger. Yeah, they're both hamburgers, but they're vastly different products. Being different from the norm is what keeps us entertained, but there is a bit of an educational component. Not all the time. Some people are very well versed. Essential oils have definitely become more in the mainstream in the last couple of years, but a lot of times we do have to describe, okay, we're using actual plants, actual trees, actual herbs. That's what's making up your scent, and not some vat of various chemicals. And that actually suits my interests as well. I like that educational component. I like to share the knowledge I've gained through reading a bunch of books and following forums and sharing that with people.
How do you come up with the ideas for these different scents and cocktails?
Yeah, the scents. Sometimes it comes from an idea or a feeling that I want to convey. Okay, I want a bright, happy scent. I want a dark, heavy winter scent. It can be a little bit more metaphorical. I'm trying to capture what would a sunset smell like? What would an old library smell like? Maybe not just the old book smell, but kind of the idea of all this knowledge, all the world's knowledge floating around me. Mm-hmm. So the scents are kind of where everything starts, and then when we go into the cocktail realm, a lot of that is driven by whatever notes are in the scent. So there's actually a lot of overlap between, say, the ingredients in the fragrances and maybe the botanicals that are used to flavor a gin or a certain liqueur. We'll often start with a classic cocktail and add various tinctures, infusions. So we've got a bunch of little mason jars in the back with an extract of lavender, an extract of rosemary, and those are kind of all of our tools for tweaking the drinks to match the scents.
Mm-hmm. I feel like scent is the most underplayed sense in business, I guess. If you go to anywhere in the world and they talk about like a multi-sensory experience, it's always very visual or sounds and touch, but I feel like a lot of times scent isn't really at the forefront of that. So can you kind of talk about the power of scent and how you feel about that sense, I guess?
Sure. Yeah, I think in part that's driven by the fact that so much communication happens digitally, through your phone, through your computer, through television, and there's really no effective way to transmit a scent, across space. You actually have to go to the place where that scent is and experience it in person, which makes it hard to sort of scale up, but also makes it very interesting to play with because, it means like it creates a much more intimate experience to actually breathe in the same air to experience that scent together is like, a much more intimate thing than, say, you can take a picture of something and share it to 1 million people instantly. There's just not that same capability in scent, or
I love poetry, and I always think when I'm reading poetry, how often scent gets talked about. the smell of this person's hair or this person's skin or a morning's dew or anything like that. And so I think it's just really amazing and poetic in a way. But let's move from that topic to your like entrepreneurial journey.
Sure.
So can you talk about some of the obstacles that you faced when starting this business and opening up this shop?
Yeah. So the shop, the business in general, the trade-off has always been time, money, resources. How do you balance all that? There's always more ideas than time or money to explore them. So, yeah, learning to pace myself on what I can actually accomplish in a given amount of time and set more realistic expectations has been big. I'll write these massive to-do lists and think, okay, I'm going to do this all this Saturday.
Yeah.
And then I get 2 of the things done, and it's like, oh. But I think to do things well is more important than to do a lot of things. So that's one of the big drives behind the company. As far as getting the space going, a lot of that same idea applies. We started talks with the landlord about 2 years before the space opened. And working through the city, working through the Historic District Commission, working through health codes, working through the fact that this building was built in the 1880s and was never intended to be, worked on in the way we've worked on it. One of the walls actually collapsed during the build out.
Wow.
We gained like 10 square feet of space, so turned out to be a blessing in disguise, but didn't seem that way as the wall was collapsing.
Yeah.
So I think keeping an open mind on what direction things are going to go, you get some say in the matter, but there's always external influences.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there was any, or did you experience any pushback on your concept?
A little bit. So we're the only perfumery in the world that turns into a cocktail bar. To explain that concept, like say to the health department and describe how we're only putting food safe things in the cocktails and getting some of those ideas across, it wasn't something to just check a box. It required a bit more explanation. But overall, I did find the city of Detroit to be willing to work with us. Maybe not every interaction was completely smooth, but it was actually much smoother than I had sort of anticipated on some level.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, good experience.
Yeah. There are 2 types of people that I've come across. One is, in Detroit, there's not enough resources for entrepreneurs, or people are very closed off. The gatekeepers of the city don't want to work with you. And so it's hard to do things here. And the other camp is, there's so many resources, people are willing to help and they want to promote what you're doing and help out. What have you found to be true, and what resources have you used that are Detroit specific to help this thing grow?
Yeah, it's depending on the day. I could be in either camp. Some of the biggest Detroit-specific thing I've taken advantage of is just the network of other entrepreneurs here. So doing holiday pop-up events, I've met a lot of other entrepreneurs. My wife has done retail boot camp, the Build program, both of which are sort of small business-oriented programs to give you the tools. What is the behind-the-scene knowledge you need to make a business work. We were lucky enough to win a Motor City match grant. Mm-hmm. So that was a big help. Nothing can happen without some amount of money. Both my wife and I were in the corporate world for several years, so built up some savings there, but not enough to fully get this off the ground. We did get a small business loan from the Detroit Development Fund. So I think there were a lot of resources. It did definitely take work and conversations and explanations to take advantage of those resources, but they were there, and I feel like once we got into one aspect, we were able to then sort of network and say, okay, who should we talk to about the insurance? Okay, we've got a couple points here. Okay, you've got the insurance, now who do we talk to about this next portion? And I think one of the big advantages Detroit has is that it's small enough that people are very interconnected. So tapping into that network and saying, okay, you've done this before, and you know this person who's done this before, and working that network has been one of the biggest avenues towards getting this off the ground.
Right. What kind of advice would you have for somebody that wants to start their own bar, restaurant, small business, organization in the city?
Yeah, I guess a few pieces of advice. Definitely a lot more time and money than you think is needed. I think balancing optimism with, the projections, the analysis, doing the work ahead of time to say, how is this going to work? How is this going to pay for itself? What are my expenses going to be? There's always going to be additional expenses. And really taking advantage of some of the tools. The Small Business Development Council has a lot of tools available for small businesses. Something like the Retail Bootcamp or the Build program. Yeah, it is a few $100 investment, but it's a lot better to spend those few $100s in that time vetting your idea before spending time building the business and deciding, oh wait, there's some key things that I overlooked that are going to hinder me from success.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're going through this crazy, you're still, building a business and you're running this business, but like in those first couple of years or months, what kind of tools, whether they're mental models or like softwares or apps or anything like that, did you use to kind of help you stay organized or stay efficient?
Yeah, good question. My email inbox definitely turned into a disaster zone for a while there. My background is in engineering, so I was able to use a lot of spreadsheets and various organizational tools there to say, what's our inventory doing? What is our cost versus, what are our margins on various products? I think, things like Google Analytics, even our sales system has some amount of analytics to say, okay, here's your most popular drink, here's your most popular scent. So, I think one of the challenges for me is I've created all these scents, created these drinks. I have personal favorites, taking my biases out at least as much as possible and saying, okay, let's let the actual business guide where the business goes and not just try to make something that, I may not be my own best customer or representative of my own best customer. So, the fact that everything is computerized now does open up a lot more data and a lot more ability to point the business in the most profitable direction.
Just a couple more questions. You're in a very niche industry with the fragrances and with the cocktails. Was there a moment in your life where you knew this is what you wanted to do, and what was that moment, and what did it feel like?
That's a good question. So I would say rather than an aha moment, it's been a progression of smaller crossroads where it's been like, okay, what is the most interesting path I can take right now? I can either keep working my engineering job, or I can start a fragrance company. I can either keep the fragrance company at the level it's at, or I can double down and build a shop. And often it's meant more work, more investment, more commitment, but at each point, I guess one of my favorite quotes is from The Art of War, which is, opportunities multiply as they are seized. So as you start to take advantage of opportunities, new things open up. And yeah, now that we've opened the cocktail bar, a lot of people come through, and yeah, a lot of people are just here for a drink, but some amount of people are running some other business, or they're doing some other interesting venture that opens us up for collaboration. So for example, the Detroit Symphony Orchestra recently collaborated with us on this performance called Mysterium, where they were trying to engage all 5 senses through this performance. And yeah, the fact that we have the shop and kind of this meeting place opened it up for them to talk to us and ask us to provide scents for this performance. That was one of the most fascinating things I've done, in the last couple of years, and that would have never happened had we not opened the shop and put ourselves out there for those opportunities to appear.
Yeah. I was at Mysterium. It was awesome. So cool. What motivates you every single day to keep going with this?
Yeah, good question. I mean, on some level, there's the practical considerations, the finances, the bills to be paid. But that's not really what keeps it interesting. There's more effective ways to make money than small business. I would say the most gratifying thing for me is the customers that come in and really get the concept. Say, yeah, I love this drink, I love this scent, I love the way they go together. I really get what you guys are doing, and no one else is doing this. And just to see the look on someone's face when they smell a scent and they're just transported somewhere else, or they drink a drink and, oh, this is my new favorite drink. Next time I come in, just make this one for me. You don't even have to ask. To find ways to bring those little joys into people's life is really something that was missing in my former engineering roles, but very present in this role. And yeah, that's really what keeps me going.
Cool. What to you makes Detroit so special?
I think it's the people. Both the people that live here, the people that are moving to the city, just a very eclectic mix of artists, entrepreneurs. I really had no intention to go into small business before meeting so many entrepreneurs in the city, and yeah, just all the help that they've been willing to provide. And yeah, that's definitely what's motivated me to stay here and build a business here.
Mm-hmm. For people watching, for people listening, where can they find you if they want to learn more about the business or they want to get in contact with you?
Sure. The website is sfumatofragrances.com. That's SFUMATO fragrances.com. Our business is located at the corner of 2nd and Alexandrine at 3980 2nd Ave. We are in the lower level. It's an old Victorian mansion, so look for the wrought iron staircase leading down. And yeah, we're a shop from noon to 6 Wednesday to Sunday, and then we turn into a cocktail bar from 6 to midnight Wednesday through Saturday.
Cool. I appreciate it, brother.
Well, thank
you
for coming out.
Yeah,
Pleasure chatting with you.
Cool. For everybody watching and listening, until next time, stay tuned.